take this great nation away from me.
Hello and welcome to another marvelous video. I'm your host, Will. In the world of the Fallout franchise, many organizations rise up in the fall of civilization. And in this video, we're gonna get into the nitty-gritty of one such organization. Let's take a look into the Enclave. So, who do you think inherited the role of government in post-war America? Was it one of the Megacorps or the infamous Vault-Tec itself? Well, let me clue you in. It was actually a paramilitary group that claimed inheritance to the US government after the bombs destroyed the world. This organization is known as the Enclave. It went on to claim to be the legitimate continuation of the US government. Like, seriously, it's no wonder that this group is also one of Fallout's most misunderstood factions ever. In today's video, we'll explore this organization in detail and find out how legitimate their claim of being the government was. So their claim as the government authority might have arisen only post-war, but it's also true that the Enclave didn't just rise suddenly from the nuclear ashes. In fact, the seeds of the group go back to the pre-war era. Yes, they were already there, quietly accumulating power while the rest of the country worried about the future. The Enclave was actually a cabal formed before the Great War, which included presidents, military chiefs, Nobel laureates, and several influential and wealthy politicians and industrialists. Quite a group to be a part of, huh? This group of powerful men and women was supposed to be the most influential minds on American soil. The Enclave had both the power and the desire to act as a secret group influencing American policies for its own ends. Around March 2077, it started to become clear that the Great War would surely turn nuclear. It wasn't a possibility that could be managed anymore. It was simply the end point now. So, what does the Enclave do? Along with the President of the United States, the Enclave and its members retreat to various fortified areas around the globe. The rich and powerful of the world were unwilling to give up their power even after the world would end. And guess who they held responsible for the impending danger? In the eyes of the Enclave, the culprit was democracy itself. They argued that elections and public debates slowed decision-making and diluted authority. The same American system, which had made the members of the group rich and powerful, was no longer working according to them, and hence the Enclave decided to take matters into their own hands and started planning for what would come after the apocalypse. Imagine. These were some of the most powerful people in the entire world with access to unlimited money and authority. They could have solved the disputes and saved the world, but saving the world was never on their agenda. The Enclave was specifically built to inherit whatever remained of the world with a new world order of their own choosing. But what exactly was their thought process? The Enclave claimed to be the true America, but let me tell you that their definition of America had nothing to do with the typical American values of liberty and inclusivity. In fact, it was quite the opposite. They were obsessed with genetic purity. Much like Nazi Germany. Inherit the world and then remove all those who are not you. The playbook sounds familiar. The members of the Enclave claim to be the last pure humans who are free from any genetic mutation caused by the post-war radiation. This thought automatically makes every other inhabitant of the wasteland genetically impure. Whether it's the surface-dwelling humans, ghouls, or super mutants, the Enclave wants to eliminate all of them to restore the pre-war lineage of America. But is this thought process of absolute genetic purity backed by science? I have my doubts here. It's more ideological rather than science. Why? Because not even all the members of the Enclave are entirely immune to background radiation exposure. This is true even when the group had access to advanced medical technology like no other. Take for example the robotic units Autodocs, which could perform even critical medical procedures without human intervention, or the automated ACE machines, which were designed to provide rapid treatment by submerging the patient in a healing tank. Even the basic medical supplies and radiation protection available to the Enclave were also highly advanced by most post-war standards. They survived using highly classified technology, but still accuse others even when they have adapted naturally. The Enclave calls themselves pure just because they wanted to justify their propaganda and their false sense of superiority over other survivors. They might try to wear the patriotic costume and portray themselves as bearers of the American dream, but Fallout lore makes it clear that the Enclave is just an authoritarian group. In reality, they don't have any right to decide who's pure and who isn't, because being pure in Enclave terms is just ideological. and has nothing to do with morals. This becomes more and more clear in Fallout 2, where we see the Enclave coming out of the shadows and stepping into the spotlight as a fully established group. It has its primary base in the Poseidon oil rig, which allows the group to remain isolated from the world. You can find it floating above the ocean while functioning as a fortress. If you look closely, it's also a symbol for America, which is no longer a land of liberty. The country is taken over by the evil greed of the corporations. From this secure location, the Enclave operates like a government that never accepted defeat. More and more of their focus is now shifted towards contingency planning as global tensions continue to escalate. The group prepared the deep underground bunkers and developed advanced AI systems which could preserve command structures. They also maintained something called the Genetic Archive to preserve their version of pure humanity. Every resource at their disposal was spent on ensuring that when the surface burned, at least they would remain intact. When the bombs finally destroyed the cities, the Enclave knew exactly what to do. They just executed their carefully laid out plans, which they had been preparing for years. While the rest of humanity faced the radiation and mutation, the Enclave sat inside sealed bunkers and continued to issue authoritarian orders while calling the wasteland as occupied territory. Sitting at the center of it all is the group's president, Richardson. He's the kind of leader who speaks with an unusually calm tone, even when his actions are about mass genocide. But genocide for what? Well, it was more like ethnic cleansing. For this very purpose, the Enclave starts to develop a modified strain of the forced evolutionary virus. Any human whose DNA showed signs of radiation exposure would be terminated with the FEV. If you talk about the Fallout world, the irradiated population practically includes almost everyone alive, so they are adamant to kill almost everyone just to prove their purity. Anyways, the Enclave doesn't think about this as genocide. They see this as a necessary step for rebuilding humanity. The planet has been contaminated, and the contamination must be removed. Anyone outside the Enclave system was labeled contaminated and was thus inferior. This thought establishes the Enclave as the most dangerous group in the Fallout universe, not simply because they are violent. Many groups are violent, but the Enclave is shown to be violent in its own twisted bureaucratic way across Fallout 2. By the time Fallout 2 reaches its endgame, the Enclave is ruling as a dominant pre-war government with scientists, generals, and presidents in their ranks, all of them armed with their genocidal plan for the entire planet. And here is where we see the Chosen One walking straight into the center to break this evil nexus. However, the destruction of the Enclave's leadership is not a single piece of action. The Chosen One has to systematically break each one of its pillars. First stop, infrastructure. The Chosen One begins the campaign against the Enclave with the attack on Navarro. The site serves multiple purposes, of training to logistics, as well as a refueling hub. It also houses Advanced Power Armor Mark II, which was unavailable anywhere else at the time. You can say it functions like a gateway to the Poseidon oil rig, which is the actual seat of Enclave's power. By attacking Navarro, the Chosen One gains access to the top secret troop deployment tactics of the Enclave, and also to vertibird travel, which is used by them for transport between the mainland and the oil rig base. And mind you, that this is the first ever breach of Enclave secrets. No outsider has ever penetrated Navarro before. After Navarro, the real dismantling of the Enclave's leadership begins. The highest civilian authority within the Enclave is President Richardson. He is directly overseeing Project FEV Curling 13. This biochemical weapon strain of the forced evolutionary virus was designed to reach the maximum levels of kills even with minimal exposure levels. Richardson openly admits to the Enclave plans to exterminate all wastelanders, including the Vault dwellers. Once global extinction is achieved, the Enclave can proceed with its ideas of world domination. The Chosen One can kill Richardson directly or convince him that the plan to unleash Curling 13 will also kill Enclave members because of FEV mutation vectors. Regardless of method, Richardson is removed from power. With Richardson gone, the Enclave loses its executive command in an instant. This is also the first time since the Great War that a sitting US president is killed in Fallout canon. After the strategic command is destroyed, the Chosen One now has to neutralize the scientific command of the Enclave. By far, the scientific division is the one responsible for the real danger because of its direct role in developing FEV and designing airborne methods for its distribution. The Chosen One sabotages the FEV stockpile and also damages the research database and the reactor safeguards. The entire Curling project is now rendered useless. This is a huge blow to the Enclave's existence. Without Curling 13, they don't have any plans for the future. But their military leadership, led by Frank Horrigan, is still alive. Horrigan is a cybernetically enhanced and FEV-modified super soldier who enforces the Enclave's will and executes anyone daring to dissent. He is also the last remaining psychological symbol of Enclave supremacy. The Chosen One manages to engage Horrigan in a direct combat with assistance from oil rig security turrets and optional aid from Sergeant Granite's squad. And ultimately, Horrigan is defeated. Horrigan's death has immediate canonical consequences. The entire command structure of the Enclave collapses. Its military leadership is now fully destroyed, but the Enclave still survives with the oil rig, but not for long. The Poseidon Oil Rig No. 17, located in the Pacific Ocean, serves as the national capital, scientific research center, and also a major population hub for the Enclave. Its destruction is perhaps the single most catastrophic loss suffered by any organized post-war government in Fallout lore. This is also their first major collapse. I mean, it's an irreparable loss. This kind of infrastructure just can't be rebuilt again. We see that even the pre-war power structures are not invincible, and that technology alone does not guarantee survival. The Fallout 2 ending confirms that the Enclave no longer exists as a unified government. This event reshapes the balance of power across the wasteland permanently. But that's the beauty of Fallout, that it never lets ideas die completely. The Enclave is almost done and dusted in Fallout 2, but by Fallout 3, it resurfaces again on the East Coast. However, it's just a fraction of what it used to be, and just like their West Coast predecessors, they quickly declare themselves the true United States government, dismissing all surface populations as mutants. But the irony is that their new leader, President John Henry Eden, is not even human. Eden is actually a ZAX supercomputer, which is an advanced form of artificial intelligence. Because of the generations of isolation, the AI has now fully absorbed Enclave ideology, and with no human president left alive, Eden has assumed the role himself, and his worldview is even more rigid. To him, the wasteland population is just a biological error which needs to be corrected. However, Eden does not command troops directly. He makes the policies and passes on his orders through the surviving human officers. His doctrine calls for enforcing the Enclave's original genocide plan, adapted for the East Coast. His AI logic concludes that any irradiated life is incompatible with the future of humanity. However, Eden has a human challenger. Enter Colonel Autumn, who is the Enclave's last attempt at practical leadership. As a field commander, Autumn does not believe in total extermination of the wasteland population. He understands something an AI system like Eden simply does not: the fact that the Enclave is heavily outnumbered. He knows that if they have to dominate the capital wasteland, they still need clean water and infrastructure. So Autumn follows some orders, but also ignores the extreme ones. He withholds information and delays the execution of Eden's genocidal plans. In a way, Autumn positions himself as the lone human authority on the ground. This rivalry would soon become a fatal one for the Enclave. This internal rivalry becomes central around Project Purity, which is a massive project built by the Brotherhood of Steel to provide clean water to the capital. The Enclave kills the project's scientists and seizes Project Purity by force. Eden wants to use the water project to deliver a modified FEV strain. This strain will kill all the radiation-affected organisms and leave behind pure humans untouched. The perfect weapon for genocide. But Autumn doesn't agree. Why contaminate the water project when it can be easily controlled? He understands politics. Control the water to control the population. On one hand, we have Eden, who believes permanently sterilizing the wasteland is absolutely necessary. He might be morally wrong, but he is logically correct. After all, how much morality can you expect from an AI? On the other hand, Autumn only wants control and not mass genocide. Rather than erasing the population biologically, he just wants to enslave the wasteland economically. This brings both the leaders at loggerheads. The search of absolute purity will lead to genocide, and going with strategy will need compromise. Now, compromise is something that has no place in the Enclave DNA. The differences are no longer resolvable. This difference of ideologies between the Central Command causes a massive rift. As a result, the Enclave on the East Coast starts to collapse due to its own force at the start of Fallout 3. The final nail in the coffin for the Enclave will be their defeat at Adams Air Force Base. With Raven Rock and Project Purity lost, this is their last industrial and military stronghold. It is all they have, until the base is destroyed by the Brotherhood of Steel and Liberty Prime. Orbital strikes destroy the Enclave command infrastructure, as vertibirds are also wiped out. The entire remaining Enclave leadership is eliminated. The East Coast version of the Enclave couldn't even survive for as long as its previous version, and they have nobody but themselves to blame for it, because according to Fallout 3 lore, they were not just beaten, but fractured from within. By the time Fallout New Vegas begins, the Enclave is already dead in every way possible. Still, they can be found everywhere, but this time just as a failed old belief system which no longer fits the world. According to the lore, they are officially destroyed. I mean, we saw how the West Coast Enclave was annihilated by the Chosen One in Fallout 2, and then the East Coast Enclave collapsed after their defeat at Raven Rock and Adams Air Force Base. By the time of New Vegas, no Enclave command structure existed anywhere in the United States, so no president or military or territory. It's quite ironic for a group which claimed to be the continuation of the US government. For New Vegas, the Enclave is now history. Other groups like the NCR, Brotherhood, and Legion all operate as if the Enclave is finished. Still, some of the Enclave remnants still remain. These are mostly former soldiers and scientists who somehow survived the oil rig disaster and later conflicts. You can find them scattered across the Mojave, living under false identities and hiding their past. Almost all of them have grown old physically. These are people past their prime, just surviving with their injuries and regrets. They can't reveal their power armor anymore because the Wasteland remembers the Enclave as genocidal tyrants. They know that if they reveal their identity, the NCR would execute them, or even the settlers would lynch them. How the mighty have fallen. The brutal wipeout of their group has left each remnant to cope with the loss in his own way. Most of them live with survivor's guilt. Should they have died with the oil rig itself? Was their obedience out of loyalty or fear? Because frankly, they have achieved nothing. The Enclave promised that they were saving America, but did they actually contribute towards saving it? New Vegas is the first Fallout game to openly show Enclave members expressing this regret. For the first time ever, you would feel that even the members of the Enclave are humans. Take, for example, characters like Arcade Gannon, who never chose the Enclave but still had to inherit its consequences. He is just the next generation who refuses the lie even while bearing its scars. But the games never uses humanization of the Enclave and its members as tools to excuse their crimes. On the contrary, it shows that people inside evil systems are still people. This fact makes the whole scene even more horrifying. Apart from the few surviving remnants, there is one more thing about the Enclave which refuses to die. It's their idea. You can destroy an army or explode an infrastructure, but belief systems? They die much slower than armies. The Enclave has no weapons or bases, but their idea of a purified human race still holds on. I think New Vegas has really shown this very idea to be the true villain. The idea still exists, and is now also seeping into the thought process of other groups. You can call it a failed ideology or anything, but the truth is that even if empires fall, their propaganda can haunt the survivors for generations. So, is the Enclave really gone? Well, yes, but also no. While there is no active Enclave presence in Fallout 4, there is a heavy implication in regards to their technology and other stuff. Weapons like advanced power armors and Vertibird, which were once exclusive to the Enclave, are still there. Other groups like the Brotherhood of Steel have now inherited it. According to the lore, the Brotherhood claimed Enclave technology directly after Fallout 3. From their weapons to aircrafts and battlefield logistics, everything was carefully studied and modified by them. Seems like the Enclave did not survive, but their hardware surely did, as did their legacy. All the Fallout 4 factions repeatedly echo the Enclave-style thought process, the typical Enclave worldview that some humans are more pure than others and that genocide is a necessity for the greater good. All these thoughts still exist. One of the cleanest examples of the fact is the Brotherhood's stance on synth extermination. Just like the Enclave believed that the Wastelanders were contaminated, the Brotherhood believes synths are dangerous. Their targets might be different, but the reasoning is the same. The Enclave tried to make America great again through technological dominance. The same kind of framework is also used by the other factions in Fallout 4. Maybe because the Wasteland only rewards centralized power. It makes me think whether the Enclave lost because it was wrong, or just because its leaders died. However, you'll see differences from the ideology as well. The Brotherhood still recruits from the Wasteland and does not claim pre-war government legitimacy like the Enclave did. Also, the Brotherhood does not pursue genocide of all irradiated humans. It's just the synths that they want eliminated. So maybe they are a bit different. But again, the kind of military authority that they display is the same. As you arrive towards Fallout 76, you are taken to the year 2102. It's just 25 years after the Great War. This is where you see the real roots of the Enclave buried. buried. They had selected Appalachia as their base, but was it just some random location? By now, you must have known that there was nothing random about the Enclave. Look closely, and you would see that key Enclave figures were already embedded in West Virginia before the bombs fell. Military chiefs and high-ranking US officials had already fled to the bunkers as part of their continuity of government plans. These very people would go on to become the Enclave. And as I told you before, they had a clear goal: survive the apocalypse and then reclaim America for themselves. You see more and more of this fact when you find the Appalachian headquarters lying hidden beneath a White Spring resort. The White Spring bunker is a full pre-war command installation. It contains everything from automated manufacturing to advanced AI governance systems and long-term infrastructure for just living out the apocalypse. Hell, it even has nuclear launch access. Looks like the Poseidon oil rig was just their leadership, while White Spring was the real infrastructure. By the time the player arrives, every human Enclave member in Appalachia is already dead. Only the Enclave's AI model for governance, called Modus, exists. The model still executes Enclave doctrine exactly as designed. It is nothing but a machine, repeating orders to no one. It is here that the player realizes that unlike the oil rig, Appalachia's Enclave never recovered from internal collapse. All the senior officials died, either due to infighting or misuse of nuclear systems. The lack of true leadership is clear. Terminals still issue commands, but no one's in charge. Procedure-wise, Modus might still fill the void, but without a command chain, the Enclave is just reduced to process without purpose. Ranks and protocols still exist, but there's no human anchor left to that authority. It's more like the Enclave became an echo chamber of dead authority. Because Modus cannot ask the questions, it can only enforce the pre-approved doctrine. Fallout 76 lore confirms the fact that the Enclave died when its leadership died, but the systems it had created still persist. Fallout 4 shows a world after the Enclave, but Fallout 76 truly shows a world which exists without the Enclave but still obeys the same doctrine. Such was the impact of the group that its institutional thinking just refuses to die. Apart from the games, the Enclave also plays a minor but extremely important background role in the Fallout television series. There is no active physical presence of the Enclave in the present timeline of the series. Its leadership and infrastructure were already eliminated across multiple games. In Season 1 of the TV show, we see much more of this reality, but the Enclave is still present through its legacy and pre-war continuity. The show shows pre-war America filled with secret government planning and continuity of government programs. All these elements are the foundation of the Enclave's creation in the Fallout lore. The elites preparing to survive a nuclear war is exactly how the Enclave originated. Season 1 of the show just gives a hint about the Enclave through abandoned research facilities and remnants of long-dead projects. You can also see it strongly implied in several scenes that Vault-Tec's highest level decision-making overlapped with Enclave planning. We already know that Vault-Tec never answered to the public, but maybe the hidden power structures that Vault-Tec answered went on to later become the Enclave. I mean, who knows? It's not clearly shown, but the fingerprints are unmistakable. The mention of the Enclave in the TV show is only to show how America engineered its own apocalypse and how the survival plans of the elites were not concerned with humanity at all. And that brings us to the real question. Now we know how powerful the Enclave actually was, but then why did it always fail? Well, the simplest answer to this is that the Enclave failed to adapt. Surviving through mutations and changes is central to the Fallout universe, but the Enclave was still hell-bent on a pre-war version of America built on control, authority, and all those worst parts of the old world. They just can't accept the fact that the world can move on without them. They couldn't understand that building technology does not replace humanity, and you can't eliminate everyone else in the name of racial purity. These ideas didn't survive for long in the pre-war world, so how could they have survived in the post-war era? Their refusal to adapt to the changing rules of the world guaranteed their downfall. But Fallout never portrays them as evil just for evil's sake. You can understand their motivations from their worldview. I mean, they were right, at least in their own heads. But Fallout makes it clear that just believing you are right does not make you right. The wasteland is a messy place, but it still works because it's imperfect. The Enclave, on the other hand, wanted perfection, that too on their own terms. And hence, I must say that their downfall was not accidental, it was inevitable. What do you think about the Enclave and its impact on the Fallout lore? Was it pure evil or an honest attempt at the survival of humans post the Great War? Tell us your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more such interesting Fallout lore.